All right, so thank you for joining us this morning for the OAA Expenditure Report training. My name is Stacy Calhoun, and I'm the Assistant Fisc Commissioner under Brad Ridley. He's our COO, CFO, our Commissioner for Fisc. I'm sure you're all familiar with Brad. I'm going to start us off this morning with some housekeeping items. The training is being recorded, and that link will be shared with all once we've completed later today, maybe even into tomorrow. All participants are muted and cameras are off. We do have a follow-up Q&A session scheduled for next Monday, 11:10 at 11 a.m. Please, after this training, collect all of your questions, and we will be happy to address those at that meeting. I can't think of any other housekeeping items. I'm going to pass the baton to Heather Driver. She's our Aging Services Director. Heather?
Thank you, Stacy. Welcome, everyone. In this training, we will be reviewing the new KDAD's OAA Expenditure Report, which was created in partnership with the Area Agencies on Aging. This report replaces the OAA Financial Report and Cash Request forms. As we walk through the report, you will find many similarities to the financial reports that you are used to filling out. A key feature of the new report is that it auto-reconciles. These are expenses incurred rather than reimbursements. After completing this training, you will be able to identify the new components of the OAA Expenditure Report and complete the form correctly. I will now hand it over to Chris Ridge, who is our Federal Reporting Manager, who will walk you through the training. Thank you.
Okay, so this morning I went ahead and I sent out this template to everyone to give you a little bit of time to prepare. So the first tab we're going to start out with is the instruction tab. The instruction tab is a step-by-step. It's a step-by-step tab that'll help you fill out the report. And then we'll go over to the administration tab will be the next one. So the first thing on the administration tab is we will input our header information. You'll have the month of the expenses you're reporting on, the type of report. It can be a monthly, revised, or final based off the drop-down list. And then your area agency name. I put Southwest just for an example here. Okay, and then the next section is our receipts section. These will be receipts that you've received in the current month. And you'll also want to put any cash on hand you have as of the beginning of the month in this section up here. And you will also report any cash on hand you spent in the below expenditures section below. After that is entered in, there will be a calculation that determines how much you had at the beginning less how much you spent this month. Okay. Cash on hand may arise from a correction on an expenditure report, and we ask that you spend all your cash on hand prior to 9:30. If there's any cash on hand remaining as of 9:30, those funds shall be returned to KDADS. This includes any final revisions. Okay. And then the next part of this is the federal year-to-date. This is all the receipts received during the federal year, October to present. This will include the current month being reported on. Okay. Next, we'll go to the expenditures section. I've went ahead and I filled in a few placeholder values just to show how this will work in October. So in the budget section, you'll place your current budget that's approved by KDADS. please make sure it's the one that's approved. Any pending budgets will be sent back for correction. And then the next column we have is the report month. So these are expenses incurred in the month you're reporting on. And as far as the admin tab goes, the total expenses in this cell should balance with everything that is below. There will be a blue 0 here if everything is balanced, as shown here. Okay. If there is an error or an overpayment, please send in the revised report for what was actually expended for this month. And we would also ask if there were any other months following that month to please send in a revised version of those reports as well. The next column we have is the cash on hand expended column. So this is how much cash on hand you spent in the current month. So in this example, we spent $50 of cash on hand, and we attributed all that to C1. Okay. The next column is the monthly expenses less cash on hand. This is the expenses less any cash on hand spent. This column is mainly so we don't reimburse you for any cash on hand that you spent. We don't want to double pay the cash on hand, essentially. Okay. The next column is going to be the federal year-to-date listed on the last report. In October, this will be 0 all the way down because we haven't had any expenses on any prior reports because October starts the month. In November, however, it will consist of the numbers that are in this field, and that will build every single month. So I do have a copy of a November report just to show what that would look like. So if we had $1,000 spent in October, that would go here on the federal year-to-date listed on the last report. Okay. And then this federal year-to-date is how much is spent from October to present in the current year. And then we have our budget balance here. Okay. The next section we have will be this right side of the report. And this is mainly for KDAD's internal documentation purposes. It also helps us reconcile the balances and helps us on the reporting side to the federal government to show how much was spent against each award. So the AAAs will input their allocation as approved on their amendment or agreement that's most recently executed. These other numbers will fill in based off of what has been input on the left side. And then down here, we have the total amount to reimburse. This will be what the accountant will pay to the AAAs. Because this will be based off of a reimbursement. Okay. That concludes the admin tab. The next tab will be B, page 1. So B, page 1, there will be some header information as well. I do have these linked so you don't have to keep retyping the same information again. If it is monthly, revised, or final, please indicate that here with the drop-down list. And then the month period is also linked to the admin tab as well. Okay. Our next section is going to be the receipts section. Please fill any salmon colored cells in, and these will be based off of receipts that you have received that month. Like the administration tab, you'll have a cash on hand as of the beginning of the month. You'll have how much cash on hand was spent during the month, and that would be shown in the expenditure section, and then how much is left as of the end of the month. Okay. And then the same note on that. So cash on hand normally arises from a correction on expenditure report. We ask that the resulting cash on hand be expended by 9:30. If any cash on hand is remaining as of 9:30, those funds shall be returned to KDADS. This includes any final revisions. Our next section will be the federal year-to-date. This is the receipts you've received during the federal year. This will be October to present, and it will include the receipts that you've received in the current month. Next section will be the expenditures / services section. And in the budget column, we ask that the AAA fills in the budget based off the most recently approved budget as notified by KDADS. Reports with a pending budget will be sent back for correction. The next column is the report month. This is expenses incurred for the current month you're reporting on. This will auto balance based off of how this is filled out. As far as titles B through E go, these amounts for the state funds are included on every tab just to kind of make it more of a standardized tab. However, the SGF funds will only be on the C titles. Okay. The next column we have is the cash on hand expended, and that will be how much you've expended on the cash on hand in the current month. So this example, I didn't include any, but you could include some here if you had any cash on hand. Like let's say we had $100 starting at the beginning of the month and we spent 50 on the federal side. That's where that would be noted. And then we have a monthly expenses less cash on hand. Here, this is mainly just to make sure that we don't double reimburse any cash on hand. Our next column is going to be the federal year-to-date listed on the last report. In October, this will be 0 because there are no reports preceding this for this current federal year. In November, this will include the expenses that were listed in the federal year-to-date on the October report. And then that will build every single month. Okay. The next column is the federal year-to-date, and this includes your current month plus the amounts listed on the last report. And then we have our budget balance. This will be your budget less all the federal year-to-date expenses that have been incurred. Okay, and then we'll go over to the right side of the report. So on the right side of the report, we asked that the AAA inputs their allocation and admin budget based off of what is the most recent approved agreement / amendment. There will also be an amount spent in prior year on these other titles. And from October to January, those will be based off of an internal estimate that the AAA will determine. And then in February, our analyst will reconcile the amount spent in the prior year with the AAA, and that will be agreed upon, and then that number will be input there in February. But until February, the AAAs can use a placeholder that's based off their best estimate of how much was spent in the prior year. Okay. And then these other cells below, those are going to self-populate based off of what is on the left hand of the sheet. And this row right here is how much the accountant will reimburse the AAA for based off of how much was spent in one year versus the other year. And this does use oldest money first. Okay. And then there will be a balance remaining down here at the bottom to show how much money is left of the allocation. Okay. The next page is going to be page 2 of B. So this is mainly used for SPR purposes. And it is a federal year-to-date report of the services by funding source. So these will be expenditures federal year-to-date, October to present, on this report. Like the other tabs, it has a header, and I've linked that to the admin tab so that you don't you don't have to keep putting in the same information over and over. But these are unlocked as well for that, but that is linked to the admin tab. Okay. And then we have the services / expenditure section. This will be based off the federal year-to-date expenditures by funding type. And then on B and E, we will have an adequate proportion section. And this is mainly a way to internally track how much has been spent towards the adequate proportion. And these tabs on page B1 and B2 are going to be very similar to the following tabs. The main difference that's going to be between these tabs is the names of the expenditure types on each of the titles. Those will vary based off of what title it is. And then on C1 and C2, there will be a required match section that will indicate how much match has been spent so far. And that will appear on both the C tabs. The D tab does not have any adequate proportion or any required match. No match is required on that title. And there's also no adequate proportion required on that title. The last one would be E. E does have an adequate proportion. However, you can request a waiver. And if you request a waiver and it's accepted, we ask that you please disregard that adequate proportion for E section if you have an approved waiver. Okay. And then our very last tab is our signature tab. So we ask that an authorized official from your agency please fill out this information. I do have the name that carries over from the admin as well as the date, but we would also need like the address information, and there is a certification by yourself that says this is true and accurate. And then that will be filled in by an authorized official from the AAA. And then down here, there will be a program signature and a program approval, as well as a program received invoice date. And that's just to help us ensure that we meet our 30 days as far as the Prompt Payment Act goes. And that concludes the OAA expenditure report training.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chris. So just as a final follow-up, remember that we have the Q&A scheduled for next Monday, November the 10th at 11 a.m. And please review the session today and the template that Chris sent out and bring your questions to that meeting, and we will be happy to walk through them. Thank you, everyone very much for your participation today, and have a great day.